Q Country 102.9 presents Roosday Tuesday, a weekly discussion with SUNY Canton men's basketball head coach Ben Thompson, giving you the inside scoop on all things SUNY Canton basketball. Q Country 102.9, time again for Roosday Tuesday, your weekly feature where we talk to SUNY Canton men's basketball coaching staff. This time, head coach Ben Thompson joining me in the studio. SUNY Canton Kangaroos had their game against Cornell and their home opener against Morrisville. Not the way that we wanted this season to start. 0-2 so far this season, but we do have a game coming up tonight, 6 p.m. at the Roos house, another home game against Paul Smiths. Ben, what did the Kangaroos learn from that big game against Cornell?
Yeah, so we're actually 0-1. So the game against Cornell was an exhibition for us.
That's right.
And a real game for them. So, yeah, so it was a neat experience for the guys. We were beating them 7-2 early, and then we were tied 11-11 with 13 minutes to go in the first half. And they went on a 23-0 run, and we just couldn't catch back up. But it was a neat experience for our guys. And then the game this weekend, Morrisville up 14 at halftime. And, we talked in the locker room and told the guys, they were going to come out and try to punch us in the mouth. And they did. We warned the guys, and unfortunately, we didn't respond very well and didn't have a ton of energy. So frustrating, but, got to move forward against Paul Smith tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you take these games to start the season. Obviously, your team isn't where they're going to be towards the end of the season. You've got a lot of growing left to do. But the one thing that stands out to me that would be a cause for concern, Cornell and Morrisville. In Cornell, there was a 23-0 run, and against Morrisville to start the second half, 14-0 run. What can you do to game plan these momentum swings in favor of the other side?
A lot of times momentum swings you don't necessarily always see coming, right? You think that certain teams are going to have one, and basketball is a game of spurts and momentum. And so during those times, I'll try to call, against Morrisville, we called 2 quick timeouts to try to kind of break their rhythm, right? And to kind of get our guys refocused. And we had a couple easy looks that we missed and a couple defensive lapses. And, we're still pretty young. As you have a more seasoned team, those teams can kind of buoy it a little bit better. So, being kind of a younger team and not a ton of guys, even that are upperclassmen that have a ton of experience, with us at least, sometimes it can be difficult, and it's a learning curve that you figure out kind of as you go along.
Yeah. So give us the inside look. Even though the Cornell game didn't really count against your record, you lose the home opener. What's that do to the locker room? Are you worried that your guys will react the wrong way?
Yeah, not really. So kind of the biggest thing that I have is we get to either celebrate for a night or we get to pout for a night. And so once that night is over with, we're moving forward. It's done. It's over with.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. Had we beaten Cornell, which would have been great, I still wouldn't have changed anything. We would have enjoyed it for that night on the bus ride home, and then the next day it was on to Morrisville. So, losing to Morrisville Saturday night, it's done. Sunday morning, it's over. Okay. So now we're moving forward. Yesterday with practice, and then Sunday they had the day off, and then yesterday with practice. And so all the preparations now are for Paul Smith. And, win or lose, by the time midnight strikes tonight, it'll be over. Yeah. And so we'll move forward with Plattsburgh.
Yeah, that home game against Paul Smith's coming up tonight at 6 p.m., as well as another home game this Friday against Plattsburgh. So we'll talk more about that when we come back. It's Roosday Tuesday on Q Country 102.9. Q Country 102.9 presents Roosday Tuesday, a weekly discussion with SUNY Canton men's basketball head coach Ben Thompson, giving you the inside scoop on all things SUNY Canton basketball.
Your best teams, championship teams, I think you have a scorer who's a junior or senior that comes off the bench.
Yeah.
Because they can provide experience and kind of that spark.
Yeah. And then it's like balancing the game. You can't have your starting five be your only good players and then your bench player just scrubs.
Right. And, 16 guys or 16 egos, you know what I mean? And trying to figure everything out is a puzzle.
Yeah, of course.
I should have majored in psychology.
Yeah. Maybe it would have helped you in the long run. Yeah. I mean, no, there's got to be, this psychology, you joke about it. Maybe you would have been a better basketball coach if you were psychology, but it's like those momentum swings. Like, how do you counter that? How do you know when one's coming? Like, is it because your team is getting tired? Is it because their team is getting the fire lit under them?
Well, one of my mentors, I spoke to him on Sunday. Josh Schertz, who's the head coach at LMU.
Yeah.
So he's won 30 games, 6 straight seasons, and been to 8 straight NCAA tournaments.
That's all.
And, they're struggling right now, too. Having the same things happen to them. So it doesn't matter how long you've been coaching or how good of a coach you are. It's going to happen.
Yeah. Sometimes you're dealt a different hand every season. You get some players.
Every team is different. We could return all 16 guys next year. I mean, we won't. But we could return all 16 guys and it would still be different.
Yeah. But it's all about, handling adversity and in the locker room and as a coaching staff.
Well, but the issue with guys at the college level is there's so many different people in their ear. And so one year they may be in a relationship.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And have a mindset. And the next year they may have broken up with that individual.
Yeah.
And now their mindset's different. You know what I mean? Or, they've created new friends or leave old friends. So it's never the same.
Yeah.
It's always changing.
Yeah. A little bit of different chemistry on the team every year. And so the beginning of the season is readjusting to what's happened in the off season, and now the different teams that you're facing, new conference too. Your bench put up 30 points against Morrisville, so you want to see more from that, or are you happy with 30 points off the bench?
Well, so the way we want to play is we want 80 possessions in a game. So offensively, I want to score at a 1.1 offensive efficiency, which would be 88 points.
Okay.
And then defensively, we want to hold teams to 0.9, so that would be 72. So my perfect score is 88 to 72 because we play faster than most teams. So if you've got 30 points coming off your bench, then that means you got to have starters come up with 58.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's probably close to where it needs to be.
Yeah. And I mean, it's going to change.
Yeah.
Game in and game out. I mean,
we had 86 against Morrisville, I think.
Yes,
or 88.
Cornell scored 86 on you, and then you scored 86 on Morrisville.
Yeah, but they scored 92.
Yeah.
So, offensively, we're not far away from where I'd like to be.
So what's the difference? I mean, only scoring 44 against Cornell. Were they just stronger defensively than?
Yeah, they're just bigger, longer, more athletic. So they close gaps.
Yeah.
Quicker.
Okay, so tougher to get the higher percentage shots
it's
off.
like when somebody goes from college to the NBA, college football players. Sometimes a college quarterback is really good in college, but that window is a lot shorter when you go to the NFL.
Yeah.
Right? Same deal. The windows, the margins are much smaller when you go from D3 to D2 to
Okay,
D1.
so experiencing that to start the season, do you think it was good for your guys, or do you think it kind of shook them up?
I think it was helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now do you think that, for me, it'd be like, you play your big brother to start the beginning of the season, and you're like, oh man, I'm not as good as I thought I was. And then all of a sudden you see the competition where you're like, oh, okay, I can play at this level.
Yeah.
These guys aren't as good as.
Yeah, I think it's harder to, and a lot of teams do it the other way. A lot of teams will play a really soft schedule in the beginning, and we do not. I'd rather, I want to win all the games, but I'd rather play tougher competition in the beginning and maybe lose some games, but have it help prepare us for the conference, right? Than just play a soft schedule and pad our wins.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we can say, oh, yeah, we're 4-0, we're 5-0 or whatever, but we haven't really accomplished anything.
Yeah, you don't want to hit your stride early in the season. No. You got to develop.
And thankfully, both years, last year we didn't win a ton of games, but both years, it's very obvious the progression that we've had towards the end of the season, which you want to be peaking, in February. So.
Yeah, I agree. Q Country 102.9 presents Roosday Tuesday, a weekly discussion with SUNY Canton men's basketball head coach Ben Thompson, giving you the inside scoop on all things SUNY Canton basketball. Q Country 102.9 back as part of your Roosday Tuesday. Ben Thompson, head coach of SUNY Canton men's basketball team, is in here. We're talking about the game tonight, a home game against Paul Smith's 6 p.m. Now, what are we expecting? I know that this is a team that you saw last season. Obviously, your team has changed. Paul Smith's team has changed. Now, Paul Smith's 2-4 coming into this matchup against you guys at home. What are we expecting in this matchup?
Yeah, they're pretty well coached. Coach Boone and I have actually been friends for 15 years. We used to work camps together.
Really? Okay.
Down in Tennessee. So it was interesting. He's from Tennessee. I'm from Virginia. That he ended up here and I ended up here. So it's kind of a neat deal.
Small world.
Yeah. And so we actually scrimmaged him already this year, but I think this is the best team that he's had. They play really fast. They have a Division I transfer in Raheem Robinson for them that's averaging well over 20 points a game right now.
Okay.
And he's quick, and they'll try to play fast and speed us up. They do a lot of they switch a lot of ball screens because they're undersized. So they'll try to disrupt us that way, and he does a good job, and he's kind of developed a pretty good culture there, and they've won more games every year that he's been there. So last year they played us close here at our place, and then we just shot the lights out of it at their place. We were awful defensively, but shot the lights out to kind of make up for it. And so it'll be interesting.
So you're saying that they're going to play a lot of ball screens because they're a little bit smaller.
Yeah, so that's how they guard ball screens, because we run a lot of ball screens. So they guard it by switching. So a lot of teams who have same size guys will switch ball screens, because to them a lot of times it doesn't necessarily matter. Like if you're like for us, it'd be tougher to switch ball screens if we've got Brandon Atkinson starts at the point. He's 5'11", Andrew's 7'1". So now if you switch,
a mismatch
there's
created.
a foot and 2 inch difference, right?
Yeah.
So it's just different. They have mostly in the low 6 feet, so they can switch every position and try to disrupt what you're doing that way.
Okay, so what are you doing to combat that, and what are you trying to take advantage of?
Yeah, so a lot of times people will continue to run their stuff against switches, and then when you find a matchup that you really like, where you think that, like for instance, if you watch the Golden State Warriors, most NBA teams do a lot of switching. So what the Warriors do a really good job of is when teams switch on them, they continue running their stuff until they get the matchup that they want, where a bad defender is on a good offensive player.
Okay.
And then they attack that matchup.
So their game plan kind of changes, and they
Correct.
readjust.
Yeah, so you can do that. You can do slips. We've heard them with slips before in the past, where you come up to set a ball screen and then you don't actually set it. You slip to the basket, because to switch a ball screen, both the defender of the ball and the defender of the screen have to be equal, side by side.
Yeah.
Right. So then the screener is kind of below his man where he's switching, so he can slip to the basket. And if you don't have really good weak side help, a lot of times you can get a layup out of it. So those are kind of two things that we do a lot against switches.
Okay, so let's say worst case scenario, you guys go up and then momentum swings, and Paul Smith goes on a 10-0 run, and they start to outscore you by a little bit. Is that something that you're kind of anticipating? And how big is the crowd going to play, as this is your second home game?
Yeah, I think the crowd is always big. My first year we led the entire state of New York in fan attendance. Last year we were a little down, but we had a great crowd against Morrisville. So I expect that the fans will be good, and they were good last year. But I expect our numbers to be back up. To kind of stymie runs, I think the best thing you can have is experience. And losing to Cornell, as much as we would love to beat them, wasn't fun, right? But we learned something from it, and so I think. In your games, whether it's winning or losing, you should be able to learn something from it. Morrisville, we learned again. And so hopefully we don't have to have too many of the same learning experiences before we figure out that when somebody's making a run, you have to take better shots. You got to be more disciplined, and you got to play harder than them. And a lot of times when teams are making runs, people will take bad shots, hero shots, to try to hope they go in to stymie the run, and instead you really got to work the clock and run your system and get easy shots.
Okay, so there's a lot of things that your players obviously need to do to win this game, but a lot of things that you as a coaching staff are looking to change, and obviously take advantage of some looks that Paul Smiths is going to give you. So you guys have this game against Paul Smiths tonight, but the next time we talk to you will be a week from today. By then you'll have already played Plattsburgh, so this is a team that is ranked. There's some pretty elite level of competition coming up in your schedule. What are you looking at from this Plattsburgh team, and do you think that they're a step above you, or are you playing as the underdogs?
I think that we can play with them. We went to their place and they beat us pretty handedly last year, and I remember showing film to the guys, and against Plattsburgh we had, I want to say, 22 open shots within 3 feet of the rim, and we missed them all. And so I think our guys kind of took that as a chip, and they're looking for some revenge.
Okay.
They are ranked. They're really good. They return Patron, who's their best player, who was an All-American and Conference Player of the Year and all that stuff, and he's back. And they play 2 games this week as well. They play Clarkson and Skidmore before they play us, and they'll be really good. So that'll be another, similar to Morrisville, that'll be another really good test to figure out where we're at and to see, have we learned and have we grown early in the season.
So I have to say it's the elephant in the room before we get into the Paul Smith's game. If you drop this one at home again, what's the level of stress, of nerves? Are you worried going into the season? Or if you start, winless at home, 2 games, is that something that you're just moving past and going to Plattsburgh?
Yeah, I'm moving on. And so, the emotions of it is kind of what I mean when I say we give them the night to either celebrate or pout or kind of whatever they want.
Yeah.
But our guys also can have a long memory, and they remember what happened last year at Plattsburgh.
Okay.
So win or lose, we're focused right now on Paul Smith. Right now our guys are focused on, last year, how well they played us at home and, how well they played us in scrimmages and stuff like that. So they're focused on that. But when we turn the page and turn the chapter over, our guys are going to catalog it, because trust me, we're going to bring it back up on Wednesday, tomorrow. We're going to bring it back up, and we're going to show some of that film. And those guys are going to have kind of a little revenge taste in their mouth.
The Plattsburgh game is played an away game for you in Plattsburgh?
No, it's home. Friday at 5.
Okay, so big turnout expected tonight for Paul Smith, and then Friday at 5 p.m. when you take on Plattsburgh Cardinals. So make sure that you come out and check out SUNY Canton men's basketball team as they take on Paul Smith's Bobcats tonight at 6 p.m. and then again on Friday at 5 p.m. as they take on the Plattsburgh Cardinals. This has been your Roosday Tuesday. Ben Thompson is here. Go Roos.
Go Roos.
You're listening to Q Country 102.9.